Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I wanted to do another Turner syndrome video. This one, not so much about the functionality of life with Turner syndrome on the health side, but kind of how you function in everyday life just with the knowledge of having Turner syndrome and the little nuances that kind of adds to things on its own. Specifically, I wanted to talk about who you talk about it with, who you tell. In my case, I have been able to be very choosy with who I tell. I have always been able to decide myself who knows, because nobody's really ever been able to notice. There has literally been one time in my life that somebody saw me, just saw me, and goes, I think she has Turner's. And that was another Turner syndrome woman. So that kind of isn't surprising. But just in the general population, nobody knows enough about it. Nobody has heard about it. There's not any obvious overt signs on me that anything's wrong or different. So I've been able to choose who I tell. And that's been an interesting dynamic to balance. Now, obviously, I kind of broke that by posting it on YouTube now, but most of the people that I have chosen to tell were surprised. They wouldn't have been able to guess. I think the only thing they really noticed was how short I was, and my parents aren't tall. My family isn't tall. So it wasn't surprising I was short. I probably just wouldn't have been that short. That in and of itself does not say there's anything wrong. Deciding who to tell has been interesting. There was times in elementary school where I kind of wanted to talk about it because it was in elementary school that my parents kind of told me and explained it to me, and I wanted somebody to talk about it with. But nobody at school was really that for me. No, I wasn't close enough with anybody at school. My best friend had left school by the time I had found out, and she lived an hour away. So it was like her and my family that I had to talk about it with for a long time. And then high school hit, and I became really close with my best friend in high school, and I told her. I didn't really tell anybody else. I didn't add anybody else to that yet. And then I got into college. I started feeling like I was just tired of talking my way around it in conversations. I was tired of trying to constantly keep this secret that internally I didn't even understand why it had to be a secret. I didn't understand now why that still was the way it needed to function. I understood in elementary school because kids are mean. Kids can be very, very mean. They wouldn't have understood it. They would have reacted poorly if they had known, and there was just no reason for that at all. But as I got older, and especially now as an adult, there's literally nothing in it to make fun of, and that's just not the time in life I'm in anymore. And I started feeling like that wasn't really what I was supposed to do with that story. I started feeling like I was supposed to share it more and use it more and not keep this to myself. And amazing things started happening when I started telling people, when I started sharing it on here. This doesn't mean everybody needs just to go tell the world, but it created in me, while I was trying to keep it a secret, a feeling of like it's something wrong with me. It's a defect that I want to hide. It's an imperfection that I'm trying to hide. And that's not the case. It's not something I need to hide. It's not something bad or wrong with me. And that was never the reasoning. But I didn't understand then why that was the case. And then as I got older, that kind of, my feelings on it changed. I wasn't worried about their reaction anymore. I had had reactions to my scars before. I had had reactions to being short before. And that was really it. Those were literally the only two things that I've ever gotten reactions on that I would have had to like cover up or try to talk around and explain. Shortness, I'm just short. That was never something that it came with a, oh, is something wrong? It was just, oh wow, you're really short, and like all of the short jokes that come with it. My neck was a different story. My scars, I did kind of have to leave half the story out and just say, oh, I had neck surgery, and hope that they left it at that. Legitimately, there are people, even now, even with me sharing it, that I probably would still answer in that same way, just because either I don't know them that well, and that's a long, dramatic, intense story, or it's just not somebody I trust with the full information, so I don't really care to explain all of it to them. And there's a balance in finding that. There are obviously certain people you're not going to be able to do that with. Your spouse at that point in your life is one of them. It's an interesting one. It can be really nerve-wracking telling that person, because they're the ones that a lot of this also affects quite a bit, as far as life with you and infertility. I remember telling Andrew, I was so nervous telling him, and not because I thought he was gonna react in a bad way, but just because I felt insecure about it. At that point, I had not been fully through processing things myself, and I didn't know my situation with infertility yet, and I had never told a guy this before. I had only ever talked to my girlfriends about it, and my dad and my brothers. That was the only guys that I had ever talked to about this. So it was interesting, and especially being so emotionally invested, it's a very nerve-wracking situation to have to tell that person, like, I'm probably not going to be able to give you babies in the normal way, and it might take a while, and it might be expensive, and there's all of these things that this changes also for you. That's not something you can get around. Like, that's not a person you can decide not to tell, so you kind of have to figure out your rhythm with how you're going to tell them and how you're going to explain things to them, and what the easiest way, the least overwhelming way might be. And even just I found a little tagline that I would use to explain it if I was trying to explain it quickly, or I didn't want to start out with all of this overwhelming detail when I was telling somebody new, because I would get really close with a friend and that stuff would be on my mind, and I wanted to talk about it. So I had to kind of figure out a way to explain it to them when it got to that point where I was like, I really want to talk about it, so I need to figure out how to tell you this. And there was this little like condensed version to start with that I figured out. And I kind of used that to, okay, well, you know, this is the situation. And then slowly through conversation, more details would come out, or they would ask questions, or whatever the case may be. And it worked. It worked. I never felt judged. In fact, every reaction I've ever gotten has been, oh my gosh, you're a miracle. Like, that is a miracle situation. That is incredible. And kind of just, they saw what God did, and that amazed them. It wasn't a, oh, ew, what's wrong with you, ever. And that was always really comforting every time that happened again, because it can be nerve-wracking. It can be an insecure, vulnerable moment when you're telling somebody this, because you have no control over it. You have no control over how it affects you or the little pieces of you that show it, and that gives you a little moment of validation that, okay, yeah, like this was right to tell. This was right to share it, and it's not something I need to hide. It's not something I need to be insecure about. And I know there are definitely parts of Turner syndrome that I have felt insecure about, or insecure because of. Telling more about it, being more open about it, and hearing other people's stories has really helped that. And I have definitely seen the amazing things that have come out of me sharing my story more. That makes me feel good about making that shift into, okay, somebody needs to be talking about this, so why not? Why not just share mine and talk about it, because it's not being talked about. I don't know if this is something for everybody, because not everybody's situation allows them that. There are definitely a variety of cases. If you have found yourself in the situation of, you know, in your case, you have had to decide throughout your life who to tell, who not to tell, who to share with, how to share it with them, how much to share with them. I would love to hear your story of that in the comments below, and kind of how you handled that, how you've gone about deciding who to share it with, and all of that kind of thing. And if you have any questions about my situation or my case or how I've gone about it, I would love those as well in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. If you have any other Turner syndrome topics you would like to see a video on, leave that below as well. And if you liked this video, give this a thumbs up and share it with everybody. If you are not already subscribed, click the screen and subscribe. I am so close to 100 viewers, and I would love to hit that mark. That would be super exciting. So click the screen and join the family, join the journey, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye!